85,000 euros. That's the cheapest property in this video. And it's not a ruin, it's not a shell, and it's not a timeshare dressed up in good photos. It's a stone house with a terrace sitting above one of the most expensive lakes in Europe. I spent weeks going through local Italian registries, not the tourist portals, not the international search sites, because the properties worth finding near Lake Garda don't show up where you'd expect them. 7 made the cut. One has a legal detail buried in its paperwork that completely changes how you should price everything else on this list. Property 1 is a 3-room residential apartment located in the mountain hamlet of Preda, situated directly on the high slopes of Monte Baldo. The price tag reads 85,000 euros or 98,000 US dollars. Preda is a distinct, deeply quiet rural settlement that sits far above the eastern shore of Lake Garda. The extensive network of hiking trails and alpine tracks that define the Monte Baldo Reserve start more or less at your front gate. From an architectural perspective, this unit is a first-floor flat, housed inside a low-rise, traditional mountain condo complex. It features authentic stone finishes, deep timber balconies, and is surrounded by rolling alpine lawns. There is nothing flashy about the exterior design, but flashiness is not the reason you buy Property 1. Let's address the honest compromise of this home immediately. The total footprint is 65 square meters built, which translates to exactly 55 square meters of actual, usable internal living space. It is legally certified as Energy Class G. That is the absolute bottom tier of the Italian energy efficiency scale. In practical terms, it means the home lacks modern thermal barrier insulation, has standard double glazing without thermal breaks, and relies on an independent liquid propane gas system, locally known as GPL, for its winter heating and hot water. In the high-altitude hamlets of Veneto and Lombardy, propane is not delivered via a municipal pipe network. It is stored in a localized tank that must be refilled by a utility truck. If high winter utility bills are an absolute deal breaker for your budget, write that down now and let's move on to the next option. But if you can look past the heating infrastructure, look at what the interior floor plan actually delivers. You enter into a functional living room equipped with an open plan kitchen counter and an integrated brick fireplace. The room features large, high-clearance windows that face directly south and west, flooding the primary living zone with natural afternoon light. Down the central hallway sits a cozy master double bedroom, a smaller secondary room ideal for a guest bed or a dedicated workspace, a fully plumbed bathroom with a window for natural ventilation, and the primary selling feature, an expansive stone terrace. This terrace is wide enough to comfortably accommodate a large dining table, 4 full-size chairs, and a complete morning lounge setup, all while leaving you enough physical room to move around without feeling confined. The alpine air up here is not a poetic marketing phrase found in a tourism brochure. It is a tangible, crisp reality, and it is the exact reason generations of northern Italians have purchased properties on this ridge. The official agency listing categorizes the internal condition as second-hand, good condition. In the world of Italian real estate listings, that phrase is notoriously ambiguous and can easily disguise a property that requires new wiring and subfloor leveling. However, at this specific sub-100,000 euro price point, this unit stands out. The custom-fitted wooden wardrobes are already structurally anchored into the walls. The dedicated basement storage locker is included in the title deed, and the southwest orientation ensures you aren't spending money artificially lighting your home during the afternoon hours. This is fundamentally not a gut job. It is a true move-in property where your primary immediate expense is purchasing a high-quality sofa and updating the kitchen appliances. The shore of Lake Garda is a 15-minute drive down a winding, well-maintained mountain road. The wilderness trails are right outside your door. Here's the strategic reframe I want to leave you with before we head down the mountain. The next property on our list costs exactly 2,000 euros less than this apartment. But instead of a shared condo lawn, it comes with over half an acre of private, independent agricultural land. 87,000 euros, or exactly 100,000 US dollars. That is the current asking price for the traditional detached farmhouse, located on Via Rocca in the commune of Gargnano. Before we analyze the room configurations, the views, or the olive trees, we must look at the mechanical reality that would cause most international buyers to halt their search. The primary central heating system in this home runs entirely on gas oil, internally referred to as gasolio, plumbed through standard cast iron radiators. Let's be completely candid. Heating oil is a reliable, time-tested utility source that remains common throughout the rural interior of Lombardy, but it is a substantial, recurring operational cost that you must explicitly calculate into your monthly carry costs. The agency listing does not feature this information prominently in the headline text. It's buried deep in the technical data sheet. With that operational warning established, let's examine the structural value. This is a fully detached, two-story country house, complete with a subterranean stone basement cellar, sitting on approximately 2,500 square meters of wholly private terraced land. That is just over half an acre of prime Italian countryside, positioned securely on the western shore of the lake. You enter via an external stone staircase that leads to a wide first-floor balcony. Stepping through the front door brings you directly into a rustic kitchen centered around a deep, wood-burning stone fireplace. To the left of the kitchen layout sits a functional, separate living area. To the right, you find a compact but fully updated bathroom, equipped with an enclosed tile shower. A set of solid internal wooden stairs takes you up to the second level, which opens into a spacious lounge or dedicated study. This upper room features double-pane French doors that open directly onto a secondary elevated balcony, offering an uninterrupted view across the valley floor. Adjacent to this room is the primary double bedroom. The property is being sold fully furnished, and a dedicated, deeded parking space sits directly inside the lower entrance gate. The hidden risk here lies in the provenance of those interior assets. The listing agent does not specify the exact age or mechanical condition of the interior fit-out, the water heater, or the kitchen appliances. In rural real estate transactions, a furnished interior can range from high-quality, mid-century solid timber pieces to broken, water-damaged laminate furniture that will cost you 1,000 euros in local disposal fees to clear out. You must have an explicit conversation with the listing broker regarding the operational status of the plumbing and electrical systems before executing a formal purchase offer. Yet, look at the macroeconomic equation. You're getting 75 square meters of usable internal living space, half an acre of private land on the western shore of Garda, and a valley view from your elevated study balcony for $100,000. This represents an entirely different class of real estate asset than the standardized tourist apartments that dominate the online search portals in this price tier. The core question you must answer for yourself when evaluating this farmhouse is simple. Are you looking for a seasonal holiday home that you can lock up and leave for 6 months, or are you looking to build a full-time, independent life in the Italian countryside? Hold on to that thought, because the answer determines which side of Lake Garda you belong on. Let's step back and analyze the broader market dynamics for a moment. You have just looked at 2 distinct residential properties, priced under $100,000, near one of the most exclusive and photographed bodies of water in Europe. One offers a low-maintenance mountain terrace. The other provides half an acre of terraced agricultural land. If you go onto any mainstream international property portal right now, type in Lake Garda, and set your maximum budget to $100,000, neither of these listings will appear on the first page. The algorithms are heavily optimized to push high-yield holiday rentals, fractional ownership schemes, and sleek lakeside studio apartments that carry price tags reflecting corporate investment yields. The properties we are analyzing represent an entirely separate layer of the local market, the domestic, historic inventory that sits just 1 or 2 ridges back from the waterline. This is where real Italian families live, work, and trade assets, and it is precisely where the true value is hidden. Now let's address the day-to-day practical logistics of living in these hillside communities. The nearest commercial hub, with full-scale supermarkets, compounding pharmacies, post offices, and comprehensive daily services for this upper western shore is either the city of Salo or the historic center of Garnano town. From the mountain hamlets, that translates to a 10 to 20 minute drive down the mountain switchbacks. If you forget to buy milk or need a specific prescription, it is not a quick 2-minute stroll. It requires an intentional vehicular trip. More importantly, the nearest primary hospital equipped with a fully functional 24-hour emergency trauma department is located in Gavardo. From the upper hills of the western shore, that is a solid 30 to 35-minute drive on roads that can become heavily congested with tourist traffic during July and August. This is a critical infrastructure timeline that you must fully accept before you fall in love with a rustic stone house nestled in the high valleys. The physical lake itself is structurally accessible. It's a matter of minutes down the hill, not a major cross-country expedition. But digital infrastructure is highly variable. True fiber optic broadband internet has reached the major lakeside towns, but it remains spotty or non-existent in the high rural hamlets. If your livelihood depends on remote corporate work, video conferencing, or handling large data sets, standard fixed wireless options will likely disappoint you. You must include the capital cost of a hardware setup and a monthly subscription for a satellite service like Starlink directly into your operational launch budget. Daily life up here operates at an entirely different cadence. It means buying your vegetables at the open-air market on Saturday morning, drinking a €1 espresso at the single bar in the village piazza, and adjusting to an intense, structural rural quiet that can take an urban mind at least a week to get used to. Every single property we are analyzing today is subject to a strict legal and tax framework that no real estate agent will ever voluntarily put into an English language listing description. When you execute a real estate purchase in Italy as an international buyer, you must budget for closing transaction fees that average between 7 and 10% of the acquisition value. These fees are completely non-negotiable, mandatory under civil law, and are never wrapped into the advertised asking price. On an €85,000 purchase, you need to have an additional €6,000 to €8,000 sitting in liquid cash specifically earmarked for the notaio, the state-appointed notary public, as well as statutory registration taxes and mandatory agency brokerage fees. Furthermore, you must instruct your legal representative to determine whether the property will be legally registered as your prima casa, meaning primary residence, or your seconda casa, meaning secondary holiday home. The fiscal difference between these two classifications is massive. If you register a property as your prima casa, you are legally committing to transfer your primary tax residency to that specific municipality within 18 months of closing. In return, the Italian state reduces your upfront registration tax from a standard 9% down to just 2% of the property's registered cadastral value. If you maintain the property as a seconda casa, you pay the full 9% registration tax upfront, and you will be subject to the annual municipal property tax, known locally as the IMU. Here is an actionable, high-value step you can take today. Before you sign an initial purchase offer, send an email to the listing agent and request the exact classamento catastale, which is the formal land registry classification, and the precise rendita catastale, or cadastral yield, of the property. The notary uses that specific legal number, not the open market purchase price, to calculate your structural tax liability. Obtaining this number takes less than 5 minutes, and it prevents any unexpected tax bills at the closing table. And this is exactly the kind of thing I want you to check before you fall in love with a house. That's why I created The Real Cost of Buying a Cheap House in Europe, a complete 180-page guide to help you understand what you're really paying before you make an offer. If you're serious about buying in Europe, this guide could save you thousands by helping you avoid the wrong property and the hidden costs most buyers miss. You can get it through the link in the description or just scan the QR code on screen. Don't buy the dream blind. Property 3 takes us to the historic Cermerio district within the Alpine commune of Tremosini sul Garda. The asking price is €110,000, or approximately $126,000 US. This listing requires careful structural parsing, So let's break down the blueprint systematically. This is a substantial terraced village house configured across 3 distinct living levels, plus an unconditioned attic space. The ground floor entry sequence opens into a central living room, a fully tiled bathroom, and an expansive farmhouse kitchen equipped with an integrated rear balcony. Descending a set of stone internal stairs brings you into the basement level, which houses a spectacular, traditional rustic cellar featuring exposed, load-bearing stone walls and a historic vaulted masonry ceiling. This is an incredible structural asset that provides authentic climate-controlled storage, the exact type of historic architectural space that would cost 40,000 euros to excavate and restore from scratch in a modern build. Ascending to the first floor reveals 3 independent full-sized bedrooms, one of which features its own dedicated external balcony. The top attic level is legally non-habitable due to height clearance regulations, but it provides excellent dry storage infrastructure. The total usable living area sits at approximately 140 square meters. For a property located in a lake-facing commune at this price point, that volume of space is exceptionally rare. Terrace sits securely on a massive, sheer rock plateau, hundreds of meters directly above the western shore of Lake Garda. The views from this plateau are famous for being intensely dramatic. You are looking almost vertically down into the azure water rather than gazing across a flat shoreline. However, we must look closely at the shared boundary layout of this property. The first floor rear balcony looks directly down into a central courtyard that is legally owned by an adjacent neighboring property. Furthermore, the subterranean basement hallway features an independent access door that opens directly out into that exact same shared courtyard. In the high-density village centers of northern Italy, these historic easements and shared architectural boundaries are incredibly common, but they can create real-world privacy friction if you do not understand the neighbor dynamics. This is a property that requires an intentional physical site visit to evaluate the line of sight and acoustic boundaries before making an offer. Additionally, the energy performance certificate is not indicated in the official marketing materials. This omission means you must demand a formal attestato di prestazione energetica before signing a final contract, as the lack of insulation on a 3-story stone structure can dramatically impact your seasonal operating costs. Despite these caveats, look at the baseline assets. 3 true bedrooms, 140 square meters of authentic stone construction, an incredible vaulted wine cellar, and a fully functional hydronic heating system already installed and pressure tested, all for 110,000 euros. This is a significant moment in our property lineup. But as we move to our next location, you will see that this specific tier of value does not last long as you approach the village centers. Let me reframe something here. We've been looking at these properties as individual finds, but what they are actually telling you collectively is that the Lake Garda real estate markets is heavily bifurcated. On one hand, you have the immediate lakefront strip, which starts at €500,000 for anything modern and photogenic. On the other hand, you have the historic hillside ledges, the local hamlets, and the agricultural holdings located just a short drive back from the water. None of these 7 properties are consolation prizes. They are simply a completely different category of choice, and that is a crucial mindset to maintain as we move forward. Property 4 brings us to a historic casale, a traditional town center stone house located directly inside the ancient core of Gardola, the primary administrative hamlet of the Tinale commune. The asking price is 120,000 euros, or 138,000 US dollars. The property is structurally organized across 3 expansive vertical levels. The ground level consists of 2 independent, street-accessible stone cellars that retain their original heavy timber lintels. The first residential level contains an integrated kitchenette, a central dining and living room, and a spacious double bedroom. The top floor houses an additional living lounge, a fully plumbed bathroom, a walk-in storage closet, and 2 large bedrooms with high vaulted ceilings. The total built footprint matches Property 3 at exactly 140 square meters, offering 5 habitable rooms and 2 full bathrooms. What makes this property a fundamentally different proposition than the terraced house in Sermerio? The answer is its precise position within the urban fabric of the town. This home sits directly inside the active Centro Storico of Gardola. You are steps away from core local services. In a historic Italian hilltop village, services does not mean a giant big box retail park. It means an artisanal espresso bar, a family-run grocery store, a local butcher, and a pharmacy. This is not modern urban convenience, but it completely removes the feeling of isolation. You can walk out your front door and buy fresh bread every morning without turning a car engine over. Furthermore, the presence of 2 full bathrooms at this price point is an incredible asset. In the traditional building inventory of rural Lombardy, houses were historically constructed with a single small bathroom, added as an afterthought on the ground floor. Finding a multi-level village home that already features 2 fully integrated, functional bathrooms means you can immediately use the space as a multi-generational family home, or split the levels into 2 separate rental zones without spending 20,000 euros tearing open floor slabs to route new waistlines. Tignale is widely considered one of the most scenic and architecturally preserved communes on the entire western shore of Garda. Purchasing a 5-room stone structure here for under $140,000 is an exceptional entry point into the market. But pay close attention to the structural trajectory of our list. The next property we are moving to features direct lake views, multiple independent access points, and the clear potential to create 2 highly profitable tourist apartments, but it currently needs absolutely everything. Property 5 is a listing I wrestled with, including in this roundup, and I want to be entirely transparent about why it ultimately made the cut. This is a substantial historic townhouse located in the hillside enclave of Tresnico, within the highly exclusive commune of Gardona Riviera. The asking price is 137,000 euros, or 157,000 US dollars. The listing agency uses very explicit language in its core documentation, stating plainly that the property is in need of complete renovation. Let's translate that accurately into real-world construction terms. This is a true structural renovation project. This is not a cosmetic update where you paint the walls and sand the floors. We are analyzing a multi-level historic townhouse configured across 4 full floors, plus an unconditioned attic, an integrated ground floor vehicle garage, 4 large bedrooms, a completely private rear courtyard, and direct, sweeping views of Lake Garda from the upper floors. The architectural layout offers immense potential. The second floor bedrooms feature French doors that open directly onto the private rear courtyard, creating a secluded outdoor space shielded from the street. The upper 2 floors look out over the tiled rooftops of Tresnico and down into the widest expanse of the lake below. Crucially, the structure features a completely independent secondary entrance on the first floor. This dual entry design means you have the legal and physical capability to split the building into 2 independent, self-contained holiday apartments. In Gardona Riviera, a town with an established luxury tourism industry that is a highly lucrative business model, here's why this property is on the list despite the warning signs. Gardona Riviera is an elite real estate address that commands immense premium pricing. The historic estate of Il Vittoriale degli Italiani is a short walk away. Premium restaurants, lakefront promenades, private boat clubs, and core municipal services are all entirely within walking distance. If you possess the financial liquidity, the project management experience, and the stomach for a comprehensive, down-to-the-studs historic renovation on top of the initial purchase price, the architectural bones and location profile of this building are world-class. If you do not possess those specific resources, skip this listing immediately with absolutely no regrets. Let's pose the ultimate honest challenge. Can you realistically manage a complex, multi-stage historic restoration project in Italy while living across an ocean? If your answer is yes, this property represents the highest financial upside on our list. If your answer is no, read that warning sentence again and let's keep moving. Property 6 is the unexpected curveball of our property tour. This is an independent, semi-detached villa located in the commune of Lonato del Garda, carrying an asking price of 195,000 euros or 224,000 US dollars. Before you question why a property crossing the $200,000 mark is featured in a video dedicated to accessible real estate, look closely at the geographical and structural layout. Lonato sits at the southern, wider base of Lake Garda, positioned just a few kilometers inland from the active shoreline. This specific property is a modern terraced villa in excellent structural condition. It is completely turnkey and move-in ready. It includes a deep private garage, the legal option to purchase a secondary adjoining garage, and an interior layout that currently functions as a commercial office space on the ground floor with residential living and sleeping quarters on the upper level. The building transitions effortlessly into a standard 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom private home. The total internal living area is exactly 109 square meters, serviced by a modern, gas-fired, hydronic central heating system, all set within a quiet, manicured residential neighborhood. The hidden risk here is entirely regulatory, not physical. The property is currently registered in the Municipal Land Registry under the commercial classification Class A10, which designates it for offices and private studios. This means that to live in the property full-time as a standard residential home, you must execute a formal administrative process known as a cambio di destinazione d'uso with the local municipality. This process is highly standardized, but it requires you to retain a local geometra to verify that the room heights meet the mandatory 2.70 meter minimum threshold, ensure the window-to-floor area ratios, satisfy local health codes, and file the formal change paperwork. This process will incur local administrative fees and surveyor costs that you must budget for upfront. It is not a structural deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination, but it is an essential legal sequence that requires time, patience, and professional guidance. What you receive on the other side of that paperwork is a modern, structurally pristine, energy-efficient villa positioned perfectly for easy road access to Sirmione, Desenzano, and Brescia, all at a price point that would barely purchase a cramped studio apartment in the historic towns of the Northern Shore. Now, we arrive at the property that resolves the underlying tension of our entire list. Property 7 is located in the highly sought-after Boschetti residential area of Peschiera del Garda. The asking price is 360,000 euros, or 413,000 US dollars. This is a premium 2-bedroom end-of-terrace villa, featuring a fully enclosed private garden, 2 dedicated covered vehicle parking spaces, and direct access to a pristine, shared condominium swimming pool. The lake view here is not a distant glimpse captured by leaning out of an upper-floor attic window. It is an open, panoramic vista, visible directly from your primary master bedroom, your ground-floor garden terrace, and your main living lounge. The total internal footprint is 130 square meters, delivering 2 large bedrooms and 2 fully updated bathrooms. The structure is completely restored, structurally verified, and immediately habitable. The ground floor living area features floor-to-ceiling French doors that open directly onto your manicured private lawn, while the elevated first-floor terrace faces directly toward the southern basin of Lake Garda. Peschiera del Garda sits securely at the southernmost tip of the lake, and it is arguably the most connected transit point on the entire body of water. The historic city of Verona is exactly 20 minutes away via the high-speed rail line that runs directly through the Peschiera station. The main A4 Milan-Venice motorway runs directly past the southern gates of the town. The world-class vineyards of Lugana, the thermal resorts of Sirmione, and the primary regional transport links are all completely within a 5 to 10 kilometer radius. This is fundamentally not a remote, rural hideaway where you move to discover yourself or hide from the world. This is a premium, high-functioning, turnkey residence positioned in one of the most economically vibrant and logistically accessible towns on the lake. Here's the structural secret that I planted at the very beginning of our analysis, the core detail that completely transforms how you must evaluate every other listing on this list. The real differentiator here is not the raw price tag. It is the fundamental question of what you actually want your life at Lake Garda to look like. Property 7 at 360,000 euros gives you a completely restored lakefront view, a private pool, and a high-speed rail connection to northern Italy's major cities. Property 2, the rural farmhouse in the hills of Gargnano, is listed at 87,000 euros. The absolute financial spread between these two options is exactly 273,000 euros. That delta is not just a gap in numbers. It represents a profound choice between two completely different human lives. One life is built around modern convenience, rapid transit, and a lock-and-leave resort lifestyle. The other life requires you to drive a manual transmission car down narrow mountain paths, chop firewood for an open hearth, manage a half-acre of olive trees, and build relationships with local village merchants who don't speak a single word of English. Let's sort these properties with absolute transparency so you can see exactly where your capital belongs based on your primary investment goals. If you want a structurally validated property that you can move into next month without a single logistical headache, focus entirely on turnkey living with Property 6 in Lonato or Property 7 in Peschiera if your budget can absorb the premium entry cost. If your goal is to own the largest possible piece of private Italian land for the absolute lowest amount of initial capital, your search begins and ends with the maximum land strategy of Property 2 in Gargnano. Getting a detached country house with half an acre of land for 87,000 euros is a market anomaly that you will not replicate anywhere else on the lake. If you are managing a family budget and require the optimal ratio of usable square meters to modern functional space, focus your attention on the family value strategy of Property 4 in Tinale. The 140 square meter layout, combined with 2 full bathrooms and a zero-distance position to village amenities, makes it the most stable residential choice on the list. Finally, if you are an experienced real estate operator looking for massive equity generation and an elite regional address, pursue the high-spec speculator strategy of Property 5 in Gardone Riviera. But approach that closing table with your eyes completely open, a local surveyor by your side, and an independent construction team already vetted and under contract. The honest conclusion, the one we would discuss over a proper coffee at a lakeside cafe, is that Lake Garda is not a single, uniform real estate market. It is an intricate tapestry of 4 or 5 distinct micro-markets that happen to share the exact same postal code. The properties listed under $150,000 are not the broken, undesirable leftovers of the region. They are simply the authentic, domestic assets that the international tourist brochures never bother to photograph. Before you close this window, I want to leave you with one specific question to answer. Would you rather purchase the detached farmhouse with half an acre of private terraced land high in the quiet western hills? Or would you rather invest your capital into the fully restored turnkey villa with a pool link at the highly connected southern end of the lake? Let's discuss it below, because the underlying reasoning behind your choice is always far more illuminating than the final number itself. If this deep dive structural analysis of real estate asset classes was useful to your property search, there are several more comprehensive regional reports coming down the pipeline. The subscribe button is right there on your screen, and I promise to keep our analysis strictly focused on the real numbers, the real infrastructure, and the hard truths that the listing agents will never tell you.